Hello, reptile entrepreneurs. This is your host, Bill Strand. Today, we're going to be talking about social media. Whether you're a business or you're just having fun with your pets or you want to be a content creator, we know social media is where you need to be. Whether social media is life or death for your business, you decide. As for me, we are going to be doing a lot of discussion about social media and how to effectively use it as a tool for your business. Joining me today is the woman behind Neptune the Chameleon. She runs an effective outreach for the chameleon community on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And although dancing to the latest trends may seem frivolous, both businesses and creators know that that is the battleground to the eyes and ears of hundreds of millions of potential customers. Social media is a serious business, and there is serious strategy behind how you go about doing it. How you post, what you post, when you post, on what platforms do you post. There's a strategy behind it all. Please join me in welcoming Neptune the Chameleon to the Reptile Entrepreneur Podcast as we talk about strategy for social media. Hello, reptile entrepreneurs. I am here with Neptune the Chameleon, who is a force on social media. Neptune, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, let's get into exactly what you do. I know you're out there. We see your face often. What platforms are you on?
Yeah, so as of now, I'm on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok making chameleon care content, educating chameleon keepers on how best to care for their little guys.
And so, what is your intention with those three? As in, why did you choose those three, and how did they fit in to your strategy?
Yeah, so Instagram was kind of by default. I got my very first pet chameleon, excuse me, and I just wanted to share cute little pictures of him and follow other chameleon accounts. So that one, there wasn't any strategic motivation behind that. I just wanted a place to post cute chameleon pictures. And then obviously as Neptune the chameleon evolved, I got more and more involved in the chameleon community and started doing a lot of educating with chameleon keepers. Saw immense value on YouTube as a search engine platform, right, for people to be able to find chameleon care content and for me to deliver visual, educational, detailed care videos, which you can't really do on Instagram. And I was pretty limited on the chameleon forms of just writing out content and not really having the opportunity to dive into greater detail. So YouTube was definitely a very, very intentional and strategic move. And then TikTok, I'll be honest, I tried it when it first came out and it was a total bust and a total dud. And I think the platform was just too new for better or worse. But after it got some momentum, I saw opportunity to start posting chameleon care content there as well, really because that's the up and coming platform in a much, much younger generation. And with chameleons and really reptiles in general, right? That age of, the preteens, early teens, when you're starting to bug your parents for a pet reptile, that's the audience over on TikTok. Yes, they're involved in YouTube, but the attention span and the entertainment factor on TikTok is super, super appealing. So that's why I joined TikTok from a more strategic standpoint, just trying to tap into that younger
Okay.
audience and really the platform audience there is much, much larger than on the other two.
Okay, so the audience, people listening, are they're looking at this big social media world, and they know I need to be out on social media. Everybody tells me I've got to do TikTok. Oh, what the heck is this? And they're trying to make decisions. And so
Yes.
I would say I'm just gonna pull three different approaches, three different motivations. Either we've got a business who's saying I've got to have an outreach, or you've got someone who says I want to be an educator, I want to get the word out, and then somebody who says I want to be a content creator, and so I'd like to make this a part of my revenue stream. With those three avatars in mind, what kind of things should they consider when they're looking at these different
Yeah.
social medias? And this is so everybody knows. She actually has a background in social media, and so has a little bit more of a perspective on this question.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a reason why I'm on three different platforms and not just one. It's because they each have their own value. I will say I see a lot of reptile businesses on Facebook, and just my 2 cents is Facebook's very outdated and old. And
Ooh,
you know,
shots
I
fired.
I know. I was at a reptile expo this weekend, and I'm like, I don't like calling myself an influencer, but the reality is that's what I am, right? A reptile influencer on
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
social media. And I was like, so where can I follow you? And they're like, oh, I'm on Facebook. And there's just this twinge of disappointment when I hear that, just because like, that's not where you need to be. Like it's too old. It's like it's too saturated with other stuff. And when we're talking about animal businesses, the crackdown on Facebook with regards to animals makes it very, very difficult. And you really need to tap into that younger generation. You know, the 13-year-olds now who get their first leopard gecko and then go on for the rest of their life, you know, to have however many different species, get educated, get involved in the community. Like that's really where we can provide some value. So I'm going to cross off Facebook, and apologies to anyone listening because you probably think you're on top of it, but social media, it moves too fast. It really does, and you
Uh-huh.
have to stay on top of it. Even Twitter is old now, right? And that's kind of crazy to
Mm-hmm.
think about because in the grand scheme, they're only a couple years old. But I mean, TikTok didn't really even exist till recently, you know? So I
Mm-hmm.
think Instagram is great for communication. If you're in a business where you're needing to talk to customers and send them links and resources and have a way to communicate, then Instagram DMs are a great option and they integrate into Facebook. So if you do have a Facebook page, that they own the same platform, both platforms. So I think that would be a pretty seamless transition. If you're like, hey, I'm on Facebook, where else should I go? Instagram would be a great option. If you are in the business of selling animals, then you already have tons of content available to post, right? You have X amount of animals, you can post pictures, make sure you're using your hashtags, follow other accounts, right? It's a lot of work, it takes a lot of time, but it can happen, and it's a great platform for those benefits. YouTube, I will say, you go one of two ways. You're either entertainment or you're education. And I think the channels that do it best are a little bit of both, where you're entertaining and educating, right? That's how people stick around. So I think that can provide value. YouTube obviously has the search engine optimization. It's the second largest search engine in the world. So it's really, really great for how-to content. This would be a good option if you're in the business to show people how your product works, to help educate people on how to care for their animals, really providing those how-to types of videos because that's what's going to get picked up by the search engines, not a vlog of your daily life, right? No
Mm-hmm.
one knows who you are. You have to rely on the stuff that's searchable before you can start branching into more of the entertainment content. So I think YouTube, I'm not sure if I would recommend for businesses starting out. Get your platform going first and then consider branching off into YouTube. TikTok, you brought up the point of reach, right? Trying to get a bigger audience. I think that's where TikTok has immense appeal. It's a very low lift, very low effort. You can edit within that platform itself. You don't need to download software. You don't have to be super slick. You can literally just throw on some audio that's trending, throw in like a cute picture of your ball python or something, you know, and then boom, you could potentially get thousands of views just from that. Now imagine if you were able to get thousands of views and then you have a link in your bio that points to your website or to your business. So it's not necessarily having to make content about your product or your service, but more so in that related industry and more of the entertainment side of it, stuff that you just think is cool that other people would think is cool. And the true content on TikTok that does well is where you can watch the video and you think, me too. Something that's relatable. That because
Mm-hmm.
then that's
Okay.
going to make you want to share it with your other reptile friends or your friends and family who also have to deal with these annoying reptile hobby, you know, things that the videos like, you know, you're a reptile keeper when da 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 da, and
Mm-hmm.
they're like, oh my gosh, that's totally me, and then you send it to all your friends who send it to their friends, and boom, you have a viral video. So it's more the relatable content, but you can grow your audience to then drive traffic to your business. So they each have their own benefits, and you kind of have to know what your intention is and see which one makes the most sense for you.
Would you say that a the value of a follower on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok is the same?
Ooh, juicy question, and my answer is no. I think if I had to rank them, TikTok's probably holds the lowest weight because people are
Hmm.
serial followers. And what I mean by that is they just follow everything. And if you're following thousands of accounts because of the TikTok algorithm and their For You page, odds are your content's not even going to pop up in their timeline. So I think a follower holds very little weight when it comes to TikTok. I would say maybe Instagram would be next. There's a little bit more interaction with that. And I think YouTube, well, maybe Instagram and YouTube are pretty close, I would say. But you've
Okay.
subscribed, you're following, and your content will show up in their newsfeed much more likely than it will on TikTok. And you're able to send messages on Instagram, sending direct DMs and stuff like that. So I think those are I would put more value in.
Okay. Because as a creator, or I want to be a star, you have a favorite media, either short form video, long form video, whatever, and so that makes a decision. But if you're a business and you're saying, I need to approach this in a social media way or in a professional way and decide based on what is the best return on investment, I'm going to be looking on, well, what does it take for me to post pictures? What does it take for me to post a long form video? What does it take for me to figure out what the heck this is
The TikTok stuff, yeah,
and do a
for sure.
TikTok? So, can you give a sense for what the return is for the amount of work you put into each one of those platforms?
Yeah, TikToks is instantaneous. The potential for audience growth is huge and by far the largest of the three platforms. I would say, like you see it all the time. You have Joe Schmo post a video and it gets literally 10 million views.
Yes,
Literally 10
thankfully.
million, like actually. And it could be like their dog running into a wall, right? And people just find it hilarious and they blow up and then they do another one and boom, now they have 100,000 followers and millions of views and sponsorships and endorsements and like how'd that happen? And then you have people who are spending time making educational content and gets 200 views, right? So I think
Hmm.
TikTok, if it takes one. It just takes one to blow up. And once you have that one, then you're set, right? Now you have the audience to then drive traffic for your business or create additional content or revenue streams, things like that. It's a little volatile though, right? It's a giant pendulum swing, and there's no way to know really if it's going to be the one that hits or if it's going to be a flop. So it's a little risky, but the return could be keyword being could, very, very high. So it's kind of you roll the dice and is this the one? I don't know. And speaking from my own personal experiences, my content tends to be probably like 80% educational, 20% entertainment over on TikTok. Um, and so it's not necessarily the stuff that blows up, but I spend a lot of time on my videos making sure my information's accurate, that it's filmed well, that,
Hmm.
there's a certain standard that I hold my content to. And I spend a lot of time on these videos, and then I kid you not, I had this one that was just like an auto sync with the audio. So like TikTok does all the work. I just uploaded like 8 videos, hit this audio, hit post, almost 500,000 views. That took me maybe 2 minutes to make.
Was that the Reptile Show one?
Yes, and it blew up like
Well,
almost 500,000 views. And I was like, really? But no, 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 not the one about UVB and supplementation and no, not that one, just the random cool animal one, right? It's the entertainment piece, it's the novelty of it. And I think breeders and reptile hobbyists have that going for them, right? It's the novelty of it of like, oh my gosh, you have how many animals, or oh my gosh, this is your whole business to do this. And think of Joe Schmo, we've get kind of stuck in this bubble of the reptile hobby where this is the norm. Vast majority though think this is crazy. Think we're all crazy
hmm
for doing this. Use that to your advantage, right? So yeah, I what was your what was your question? We're supposed to be talking about the different
well,
platforms.
we're getting into
Okay.
it. Yeah, that's answering it. Just getting an idea. Now we're seeing a trend in social media. Say, if I'm sitting here trying to figure out which platform should I invest in, to where a while ago, if you call a while in social media terms, we had all these different platforms. That YouTube was long form video, and then Instagram was pictures, and Facebook was forums. But with TikTok coming in and blowing everything up, and now we're having a more homogenous approach to where all these other social medias are trying to be everything.
Yep.
So now you've got short form video on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You've got long form video on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and you can post images on YouTube now, and they call it community. Do you have any feel for how successful these other platforms are on trying to be everything to everybody?
Yeah, I will say so Reels is what's called on Instagram, the like short videos, and so you see a lot of content creators taking their TikToks, putting them on Instagram, taking Instagram,
Instagram
put it
hates
on the,
that.
and then putting this on this and da da da. I actually will screen record my TikToks prior to publishing them, so there's not the little TikTok logo on there,
Hmm.
and then post them onto Instagram that way, because I think it's annoying to have a little logo bouncing
Oh,
around
yeah.
on your videos and stuff. Um, but
And Instagram's going to downgrade you if you do that.
yeah,
If you
so
have
for
the
better or
watermark.
worse, you can duplicate content. And I will say Reels, because it was a new feature, the amount of views you can get on a reel, for me at least, is immensely higher than if I post the exact same piece of content as a video on Instagram. Same platform, same content, just slightly different methodology, or method going into the platform. And the reach for a reel for me has been much, much higher than it has for a video. And if I put something that's a little bit more opinion based and maybe borderline controversial, then that's when it blows up, because then people are sharing it, they're commenting on it, it's sparking conversation. So I feel like that has like appeal. And yeah, it's something coming from TikTok. I would say the YouTube community tab is great for posting pictures, but really for what it's named, community, being able to engage with your audience, because that's hard to do when you have a very formal video of you have your introduction, the meat of the content, and then outro. You don't really get to engage your audience because
Hmm.
you post it and then that's it. So I think the community tab is great for that. I haven't experimented too much with the YouTube shorts. I know you have a little bit, but
Hmm.
I think there's potential there to maybe branch into YouTube shorts.
Yeah, the challenge here is we all see followers as numbers, okay, and views as numbers, but all the numbers are not the same, and so it's a challenge with the shorts on YouTube. Are the people who are enjoying the shorts gonna enjoy my long form videos,
Right.
or is it a different customer? And so that's it's been a lot of experimentation to figure out how much they translate over. And the same would be with Instagram. Are the people who are liking the reels, are they the type that's going to spend time on your profile and your
Yeah,
account
I've
and get
I've
more involved?
yeah, I've seen some. I've When I first started posting my TikToks over into Instagram, I got some negative comments of like this is dumb, this is pointless, like, because I mean, it's
People don't like change.
right. It's also now my face is on my Instagram page, where before it was exclusively just my chameleons. Now it's like, who's this
Ah,
person
okay.
who's popping up, dancing around, telling me about UVB, you know? So like, I get it's not what you came for, but I
Uh-huh.
also get the people who are like, oh my gosh, this is so helpful, because they're
Hmm.
only on Instagram, so they're not getting
Yeah.
all the other content. So yes, it's additional work, but if you can stay in the loop with the different features and don't fall behind, then you can work it to your advantage, right? And grow your audience and dip into other types of content and use that to your advantage. Where you're going to get lost, though, is if you're not able to keep up with that and you're stuck posting stacked pictures once a week. That's not going to cut it on Instagram. So you have to keep up with the times, you have to be consistent, you have to stay frequent with your content. Once a month, might as well not post. It's not
Hmm.
working to your advantage. So um, yeah, new features are great,
Well,
but you gotta
that's
stay on it.
well, something you touched on was a perfect segue to my next question. How much do you see that the audience is isolated? So how much do you see that it's a YouTube audience and an Instagram audience and a TikTok audience, and how much do you see overlap?
It's hard to quantify that. I do know I have a lot of followers on all three, and as a result, I make sure that I have unique content. Like I have content on YouTube that is just on YouTube, just on Instagram, just on TikTok. So there's a very, very small amount of overlap, but I have three unique pieces of content for three different platforms, which is it's a lot of work. It's very exhausting
Mm-hmm.
to try and do all of that, but I want to make sure that my followers who do follow me on all three is not duplicating content, because then what's the point? And as I spoke on earlier, each platform has its unique advantages, so I make sure I tailor my content to that platform. If that makes sense. So,
Okay.
and there are people
Yeah.
who are just on Instagram or just on YouTube because they're like, "Hey, how can I contact you?" And I say, "DM me on Instagram." I'm like, I don't have like Instagram, so like
Yeah.
that happens too. But I would say it's not as often. I would say Instagram and YouTube, I see a lot of overlap. TikTok, not a lot of people have TikTok accounts. That are like the older generations, more the
Mhm.
younger people that I see over on TikTok. So.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit from the business owner standpoint, the breeder looking at social media. Let's jump to a content creator who probably has a favorite platform. What happens when you start? So let's go back to when you started. What kind of things did you run into? How did you develop your audience, and how did you establish credibility?
Yeah, we'll have to go through those one by one. So, well,
Did I ask a lot
yeah,
all
that
in
was that
one?
was a lot. So let's just start with like how I started, kind of branched into the different
Yeah.
platforms. So I mentioned that I was just on Instagram. It was just because I wanted to share my chameleon. No intentions of having it be profitable or turning into a business, or really just very innocently posting pictures of my chameleon. I told myself, I planted the seed of wanting to do YouTube. I had a couple of videos filmed, but I told myself I would not post on YouTube until I had 1,000 followers on Instagram. And the reason for this is because if you have an audience on one platform, it's a lot easier to then transition to a different platform, because then you have a
Mm,
following, and I use the word following lightly because 1,000's pretty small in the grand scheme, but I'm like, even if 10% like go over to YouTube. That's at least 100 subscribers right there, right? That to me is a more strategic move than trying to start all three from scratch. Plus, I can focus my time over here, figure out what works, what doesn't work, what's resonating, what's not resonating, use those as learnings to then move into a different platform. And then that kind of helped kick that off. So that you asked me kind of like the journey of that. So what was the
yeah,
part two?
yeah. Sorry, we'll do it like I should have done it. That was how you started off. So, what kind of challenges did you run
Yes.
into starting off?
Yeah, so the biggest thing is consistency. And especially with Instagram, and I kind of touched on this earlier, you can't just be posting once a month. On my Instagram account, I posted every other day, I want to say is what I started out doing. And then it became once a day. And so then I posted pretty consistently once a day. And I did at like the peak times. I would do mornings and evenings and like try and figure out what works. I'm using hashtags. I'm following other chameleon accounts. I'm engaging. And it was really, really difficult to feel like it was worthwhile, like I was gaining an audience. Because I'm like, man, I'm posting every single day and I'm getting like 20 likes on these things. But I always tell people, when you're first starting out and you're trying to grow your platform, no one knows who you are and no one cares who you are. That's the reality of it, right? Because
Hmm.
you haven't made a name for
Hmm.
yourself.
Yeah.
So go to the accounts that people know, that people care about, and interact. Comment on all their posts, like all their posts, see who else is commenting on their posts, and go look at their profile. Go like a couple of their pictures, go comment there. So if the roles were reversed and you got notification that someone just liked 6 of your pictures and commented on one of them, what are you going to do? Odds are you're going to click their profile. Like, who is this person who's liking and
Yeah.
commenting on my stuff? And then I'm like, ooh, Neptune the chameleon, this looks pretty cool. Look at I love chameleons. Yeah, I'll follow this account. Drop you a follow. That's how you drive
Okay.
people to your page, not you posting stuff and relying on hashtags. It's too saturated. There's no way people are going to find who you are. So you have to go and find them, get them to look in your direction, Maybe they drop you a few likes and don't follow you. That's fine, but now you have a couple likes on your page. They, checked you out, gave you the time of day, and then move on to the next one. So this is what I would do when I was first starting. I would sit down and like, okay, I'm gonna hit up 10 accounts. And I would go to like the search bar, search Panther Chameleon or whatever is applicable,
Hmm.
and then I would find 10 different accounts and I would sit there and like five or six of them and I would comment and this is my own thing. I don't give out pity likes. I will only like your stuff if I actually think it's cool because I don't like people
Good.
who like spam stuff, and if there's an opportunity for me to be witty or funny in the comments, take advantage. If there's a way for you to like educate, like, hey, did you know your command's actually female? Like, what? You're telling me Paul's
Hmm.
Paulina? So it's just like things like that, right? You can spark conversation
Hmm.
and see who's engaging with their content. So I gave myself the number of 10. And every time I would sit there and I would do it with 10 different accounts. And then eventually that starts to build the community and the relationship and following, and you're all the while still posting once a day, still posting to your story, still liking people's stuff. Like it's a lot of work, but it's also a snowball because now you don't see me going on 10 different accounts. My pages just grow organically and like yeah, I engage and I will comment and like stuff, but I'm not going to the search feature and finding other accounts because I put in that work for 3 years. I've had my Instagram, so
Uh-huh.
like spent the time already and like yeah, you still have to maintain it. Now I post around 2 times a day, and I still post daily, and so like the amount of content I'm posting now I think is meteor of a value. People are emotionally invested in my commands. They know them by name. They notice when I make changes to their enclosure. They know who I am, right? So now it's a community and it's a platform, but it didn't start out that way, right? You have to spend the time.
Okay. Well, one of Bill's rules of social media is that you're nobody until somebody hates you.
Hey, that works
How soon?
though. Know that people will do
Yeah.
that and people will like get all, heated in my TikToks because of something. And I'm like, keep it coming. The views are just racking in,
Yeah.
right? And as long as it's not getting mean, obviously I'll like shut it down if but if it's just a heated debate or a difference of opinions, go crazy. I'm like,
Hmm.
that it's
Rack
it's
up that
views. I
engagement.
mean, yeah, that's and same on the chameleon forums. People would get into these heated debates, and so then my thread count view is just going up and up and up. I'm like, as long as people are being, considerate and not being actually mean, I say, that's the beauty of social media is it sparks conversations and difference of opinions. So bring it on.
Now, some beginning content creators, just starting out, may not have developed that thick skin. So, how soon was it before you got discouraging voices thrown your way?
The first day? No.
First day. All
Yeah,
right.
I would say probably my second YouTube video is when I started. So my very first one was like meet my pet chameleon. Always good to introduce yourself, go through your, credentials if you have them, your years of experience, who are you, right? So people can get to know you. That's always a good first post. But then kind of dive into the content from there. And, you know, people were not supportive of getting started, and you'll get it from your friends and family, you'll get it from industry peers, and this is my thing. You always have to ask yourself why. Why are you doing it, and what's your North Star? And if you can figure out what that is for you, then it won't matter what
Hmm.
other people have to say. And I think it's also important when you're going into social media because if your goal is to make money, that's probably not a good enough reason to get into social media. It's too much work, it's too time consuming, and the return on investment from a monetary perspective will take years to come. So you have to do it because of another motivator, and then that is an added benefit to it. So my North Star, my why was to help chameleons. And so when people were like, oh, like you look funny or you sound funny or your content's garbage or whatever, like I'm like, okay, but I'm still helping chameleons. That's why I
Hmm.
started. So that was enough for me to keep going. And I would get that from people like, oh my gosh, this was so helpful. Thank you so much. Or like, hey man, you're posting cool content, whatever. Just something that made it worthwhile, but you have to hang on to that North Star because when you're feeling unmotivated or discouraged or am I making a difference, That's what keeps you going, even when you get
Okay.
12 likes. But you get that one comment of, something positive, like, okay, this is worth it. I'll keep going. And hopefully the good outweighs the bad.
So, when you were first starting off, what were the milestones that you pointed out and said, "Okay, that's my first milestone. When I hit that, I've made it."
Yeah, so I think your first 100 on Instagram is a big one, and then your first 1,000 on Instagram is a big one. I just recently hit 10,000 on Instagram, which is when it switches from having the comma 00 to just like the giant K on there, like woohoo. But really, I wanted to hit 10K more so for the feature where you can add in the clickable links in your stories.
Yeah,
That's what
that's
I want. That's
significant.
why I was excited because,
Yeah.
especially with my content, I'm constantly linking to YouTube for more detailed care stuff. And it's super frustrating for me to like click the link in my bio, then click this link, then click that link, and then enter in your favorite color, and then go for it. Like, it shouldn't have to be
Hmm.
that difficult to get to another platform and other pieces of content. So there's different feature milestones that you get with X number of followers. Also, being able to monetize your content requires X amount of followers. Like, those are big milestones. I still remember my very first Instagram post that hit 1,000 likes. That was like a really big milestone.
Hmm.
My first TikTok that hit 10,000 views. It's just the one with lots of zeros on the end of it that you're like, okay,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
making progress, making a difference. So,
And how long did you have to go posting before you started really feeling some momentum? Like, yeah, that this isn't a waste of time.
so for Instagram, it probably took me year and a half, 2 years, right around
Okay.
there is when I like broke 1,000 followers. And like I said, it's a snowball. So 2 years ago, I hit 1,000, and then just this past month, I hit 10,000 on Instagram, right? So like,
Yeah.
it took me a whole year to get that first 1,000, and then in 2 years, right, the additional nine. So that I think took about that long for TikTok. Like I said, it just takes one. And the big one on there is hitting 10,000 followers. That one took me a couple of months to get to, but really, like I said, it's a pendulum, right? You just get that one couple of videos that blow up, and then you get a lot of followers from that. So I think the snowball is the biggest over on TikTok, and then YouTube probably took me a bit less than a year to get 1,000 subscribers. I think it took me like 8 or 9 months to get a
Hmm.
thousand. But keep in mind, I was in a niche. I was, doing content that was very searchable. I was cross-pollinating it over into the chameleon forums on Instagram, right? So like I was doing all the behind the scenes work to have that work in my favor, right? So I was putting the time.
Okay. When we are coming to social media, we know we need to be on social media. There are a lot of platforms, and there is a for a business. There's this pressure to be on all of them. For a content creator, well, I can make a video and put it on three different platforms. What would you say to the pressure to be on multiple platforms?
I would say do what is realistic for you. Start with one and see how it goes for you. Social media is not for everyone. Obviously, if you can make it happen, use it to your advantage, but be mindful of your bandwidth and your time. And it's also a very creative space, right? You have to be coming up with content. It's in the name, content creator. It's not content republisher. Like, you have to you have to be coming up with it, which can be a challenge for some people. So start with one. See if you even like it. And if Instagram's not your thing, try TikTok, try, Snapchat, try Facebook, try YouTube, find something that works for you and something that you genuinely enjoy. Because if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to be sustainable. So start with one, and then if that's going well for you, then branch out into the other platforms. Because if you can build a following over on this platform, then that works to your favor on the other platform. It cuts the work in half, so to speak, as far as trying to grow your following. So yes, there's pressure, but I think we've chatted a few times now on like the pros and cons of each platform. So do lots of research. And I think it's worth mentioning there's tons and tons of content creators whose content is how to be a content creator, right? And they teach you
Yes.
how
Yes.
to do Instagram, how to do YouTube, how to do TikTok, get the algorithm to work in your favor. So you don't just have to rely on me able to figure this all out. There's tons of resources available to you to set yourself up for success, but the biggest thing is consistency and time. And if you're not enjoying it, those two are going to be very difficult to pull through. So start with one, go from there, and if you enjoy it, then keep going. Go crazy. Take over the world.
How do you manage three separate platforms? Seems like it'd be a lot of
It is a
work.
lot of work, but it comes down to what I was saying earlier. I enjoy it, right? I like it. So I don't mind doing it. I have literally 7,000 pictures of Neptune alone. I have a whole folder, and it's just Neptune, not even my other animals. So Instagram's pretty easy for me to post pictures of. Granted, it's a little more work now because of the reels and stories, and that takes a little more thought to create that. So what I do is I without intending to end up having like a little photo shoot with my animal because they're like in the super cute pose. You like take 5 different pictures,
Hmm.
and so I will have drafts in my Instagram where the photo is, if you want to edit it, you have the opportunity to do that. You have your caption, your tags, all that already good to go. So then it's just sitting as a draft. So then I know when I have my peak hours, I just go and hit publish. And then I have my
Hmm.
hashtags already saved in a note on my phone. I have a hashtag chunk that I do for Neptune, my Panther Chameleon, for my Christopher Parsons, because they have tailored hashtags. That's a pet peeve of mine when it says like hashtag gecko and it's a snake. And I'm like, ah, don't.
Yeah.
So I have separate hashtags for my 2 different species of chameleons on purpose. So then I will like have that already set aside. So then that's minimal work on my part. So that when I have some free time, I'll just draft up 5 or 6 posts so they're already good to go. So that's pretty doable. YouTube's probably my most time consuming piece of content just because you're having to film it, and even before filming it, you're having to come up with the ideas, at least some outline of a script of what you want to say. Then you're actually filming it. Then the post production part is the most time consuming part, editing. If I could have someone edit my stuff, like
Hmm.
that'd be a game changer. But then editing all of it, and then you're creating the thumbnail, the title, the SEO, all that stuff. So that one's probably the most time consuming. But that was something that was important to me. So I set out with the intention of posting once a week on YouTube, which isn't even a lot, I feel like, compared to some other YouTubers who post like 5 times a week. And I'm like, how are you even doing that?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy to me. But once a week was what I could manage with, my day job and personal life, and then this being just a hobby for me. But the more consistent you can post, the better. And I will challenge that some people think the more content, the better. There's something to be said of having a little bit of a build-up in anticipation for a video drop because I know some reptile YouTubers who post 5 or 6 days a week. If I'm your subscriber, I'm like, oh yeah, here's another one, right? Because it's expected that you're going to be posting out content.
Hmm.
Now, I'm currently at the point where I post about once every 2 weeks. Every other week is when I'm posting right now, ish, give or take. And so now there's kind of this suspense and buildup where you have to wait not 1 week, potentially 2 weeks for me to drop a video. And that's boom, like, oh my gosh, it's a Neptune the Chameleon video. I gotta go watch. So there's something to be said about building
Okay.
the suspense in. But it kind of goes back to my earlier point. I have the following. I have the luxury of being able to do that. When I was first starting, no one knew who I was and no one cared who I was. So I just have to put out quality content. And I would rather post once a week and have it be quality than 5 times a week and, just be posting for the sake of posting. So that's the time on YouTube, definitely the most. And then TikTok is very, very minimal. You can edit within the app. You can spend 30 seconds or 3 hours on a TikTok video. It's kind of whatever you're comfortable with. But there I post at least once a day, if not twice a day. So it's just um, quantity of content over there.
And how structured is your posting schedule?
Um, I mean, I have it like in my head of when I post. So like YouTube's are usually Saturdays. in the first half of the day, and that's based off of my availability, right, of being able to post stuff, and so I can wrap stuff up Friday night, and then post it for Saturday. And I look at my analytics to see when my audience is most active. So that's how that came for YouTube. Instagram, I have people who follow me across the world, specifically in Europe and the US. So as a result, I try to post once in the morning to try and hit the European audience, and then kind of midday as well for the US. So that's a little bit strategic. And then I'll post to my stories typically in the evenings. So then I have content for all three parts of the day, to try and hit different time zones, different hours within the day. So that's structured, but again, it's loosely. It's not like it's 10:13 every single day or something. I'm like, okay, generally in this like chunk of time. And if it gets too late, then I'll just wait till tomorrow to post it.
But do you have a plan that you will do three times a day or two times to Instagram and one story, and you will do that all day, each day,
No,
and you will do a YouTube every 2 weeks?
I mean, YouTube for sure is every 2 weeks. I try to hold myself to that.
Okay.
Instagram, I try to post once a day. But I have found sometimes if I just take a 2, 3 day break from Instagram, then that'll bring in new followers and more likes if you just
Mm-hmm.
kind of like pause it for a day or two and then pick it back up. I've noticed that will work well as far as generating um, views. But yeah, Instagram is at least once a day, if not twice a day. I really post my stories as I see fit because I don't like posting stuff for the sake of posting it. If I post it, there's a reason behind it, or I had an idea, or I want to share. I'm getting a lot of questions about this, so like let me just post about it. So, I'm sure someone else has that question. And then TikTok is also very strategic. We're at least once a day. And really, TikTok, the big ones are posting 5 or 6 times a day. I do not have the time to do that.
Wow.
Once a day is plenty, two if I'm feeling ambitious, but again, I have to come up with ideas to do that and film it and edit it and publish it, all the while answering comments and DMs on two other platforms, so it can be a lot to juggle. So I do what is realistic for my time and my bandwidth. There's no golden rule. Again, there's tons of information out there on best practices for social media for different platforms, getting the algorithm to work in your favor. But it goes back to my earlier point of you have to do what is sustainable that you can stay consistent with.
Okay. Question of quality versus quantity on the different
Yeah,
platforms, and how do you make the decision as to what's the most important?
yeah. So each platform definitely has a different answer. So TikTok's definitely quantity. YouTube is definitely quality. And I would say Instagram's probably a little bit of both. Because it can just be a picture, right? It doesn't have to be this like National Geographic, whatever. And with smartphones having nice cameras these days, as long as you're not using your flip phone to take a picture, like odds are it's probably like a pretty nice picture. So like that one, the quality doesn't have to be, some snazzy DSLR like camouflage creation level. Like their pictures are amazing, but not all of us can pull those off all the time. So I say Instagram's probably like the lowest lift because quality is obviously very time consuming and quantity is very time consuming. So Instagram's
Yes.
probably the happy middle between both of those. But again, you could post on TikTok not as often. It's just not going to have the same impact. In YouTube, you could post a slightly lower quality video. It's just not going to have the same impact.
Okay. Let's talk about that third person, the one who decides, I want to be a content creator. I want this to be part of a monetization
Hmm.
strategy and an income stream. What can you share about monetization across these social media
Yeah,
platforms?
yeah. I mean, the opportunity is definitely there. The minimum requirement is going to be different for each platform, but it typically comes down to you have to have X amount of followers because the platform is not going to pay you for your 20 followers, and your two likes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a business
Mm-hmm.
for them as well, and then you have to make it worth their while. Instagram is just now getting into monetizing their content. I haven't been able to dive too deep into that yet. I think they're realizing they have to kind of get with the program, or content creators are going to go to other platforms. So I think Instagram is just
Yes.
now dipping their toe into the monetization piece. They just released being able to send money during live streams, which is few and far between, I think, for smaller content creators, but it opens it up. TikTok, in order to monetize, you have to have 10,000 followers. That's a pretty substantial amount of followers, I think, for any platform. But again, with TikTok, it just takes that one,
Mm-hmm.
to cross you over that threshold. I think the monetization opportunities on TikTok are pretty small, both in my personal experience and also talking to other reptile content creators. That's not where the money is, but it is where the views are. So if you can use that to your advantage and drive traffic to your other platforms where the monetization is higher, then can use that to your advantage. But otherwise, you have to be the one that's literally getting like 10 million views on each post, and you've got the sponsorships and all that to really pocket some change in TikTok. And in terms of monetization, YouTube is really where it's at. YouTube AdSense brings in a lot of money for content creators, and a lot is obviously relative, to your audience and
Mm-hmm.
what you consider a lot, but YouTube AdSense basically means that they will pay you to put ads on their videos. So it's interesting because it's not just views and it's definitely not subscribers. It's literally how many people view the ads on your videos is how you can generate money from YouTube. Over there, you have to have 1,000 subscribers and I think it's 4,000 watch hours, which is a good chunk of time to try and cross that
Mm-hmm.
threshold. And then you have the opportunity to do chats as well, where people can send you money through live streams, which has happened a few times over there for me. It's just usually people
Okay.
trying to give back, as a thank you for the work.
Okay. Uh, and for those content creators just starting off, I'd like to see if you could give them some insight, and in this case, specifically about if they are female. What do you have to consider on social media if you're a
Yeah, I
female?
mean, there's a lot of weird, weirdos out there. So just be smart, and not just for females, but really just anyone on social media. Internet safety. I feel like people used to put a lot of emphasis on that, right? When, chat rooms and things like that were coming out. That's something that was kind of ingrained in my generation. I think less so now because I will have kids, literal kids, DMing me, telling me where they like what cities they live in. I'm like, why are you
Mm-hmm.
telling why are you telling me this?
Okay.
So just being strategic in how you're presenting yourself and the information that you're making available for people. And I tend to keep my personal life private on social media, and that's very intentional. I don't think there's any real value in people knowing my name or where I live or what I do for work. Now, if it was relevant to my industry, say I was like a biologist for my day job, then like, yeah, that helps give me some credibility. I'm an industry expert. Like, then that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
Mm-hmm.
just someone who's a hobbyist and does this because they love it. I'm doing this for chameleons, not for me or my benefit, right? It's really to help other people. So just being mindful of the information that you share and ask yourself, is this pertinent? Do people need to know this, or am I just volunteering additional information? And if it works to the advantage of your brand and gives you credibility, I say go for it. But if it's optional and it doesn't, then maybe that's a better option to keep that information private.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what it's like being a content creator. What I mean, obviously you've got all these followers, but what is it like actually doing it?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty surreal. We were chatting about this a little bit earlier of just meeting a subscriber for the very first time, and I was at a reptile expo, and I knew I was gonna go on Sunday. I wasn't sure if I was gonna go on Saturday, but I didn't really have plans. So I was like, you know what, I'll just pop over. Showed up, a bit later into the day, and I walk in, and I hear, oh my gosh, it's her. I'm like, what? And I look over it, and it's this girl, her mom, and she's like, oh my gosh, it's Neptune the chameleon. And they drove from like 3 hours away, and like were looking for me all over, and like knew who I was, and like, can I get your picture? And that to me was so surreal, so surreal because my time is spent staring at my phone in my apartment talking about
Yeah.
chameleons,
Yes.
you know, and I publish it and I answer comments, but it's all from behind the screen, and it honestly can get very lonely and isolating. And people come ask you a question and then say thanks and leave, and
Hmm. Hmm.
it I don't know how to describe it, but it's fulfilling, but also kind of like you just came, got what you wanted, and now you're gone. I'm like, oh, you're welcome, and then, and
Yeah.
it's kind of a very transactional relationship, right? Like you have something they want, they come and get it, and then they move on. And granted, there are the people who come back and like, hey, I wanted to give you an update on my chameleon. They're doing great. Here's pictures. Like that makes me happy. That makes me all warm and fuzzy knowing that I was able to help people, because it can get really discouraging of, well, my breeder said to do it like this, so I'm gonna do it like that because they have raised that. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like,
Uh-huh.
so that, can be a little disheartening sometimes, but I just say all we can do is try and, try and provide value. I'm kind of in the unique spot of educating and, helping people with their chameleon care more so than like the full business perspective. Like to your point, content creator, not just running a business. So that can
Hmm.
be challenging. It is isolating, and the downside of keeping my personal life private is, it's harder, I think, to sometimes build those relationships with people, within the hobby. And we are in a niche. There's not a lot of chameleon people who are putting themselves out on social media, so I kind of feel like a lone wolf where I'm just figuring it out as I go. I don't really have people to brainstorm with or like, how are you doing it? What are you seeing that's working? Like it can be a little daunting. So I love podcasts like this where it's a knowledge share where we can hopefully help other people getting into this. So yeah, it definitely has its pros and cons. The pros do outweigh the cons. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it, and it's a good
Hmm.
icebreaker, when I go
Hmm.
meet people and going to the Reptile Expo. It was interesting this time because I feel like I finally have enough of a following to kind of put myself in the reptile influencer category, even though the word influencer tends to have a negative connotation with it. That's really what this is. And so I'd go to the expo and I'm wearing my like Neptune the Chameleon shirt, and they're like, "Oh, are you a breeder?" And I'm like, "No, like I didn't say this, but it's basically I'm like I'm a reptile influencer." I was like, "Oh no, I make content for like Instagram, YouTube and all this." And they're like, "Oh, really?" I was like, because they're on the pre-sales and sales of it, right? Like they're
Hmm.
selling their animals. I'm like, I am on post-sales. They have the animal, now what? And I'm the one
Yep.
to
Yeah.
ensure that they're set up for success. And while I would love to think all breeders are doing that, the reality is they're not. So
Hmm.
it's kind
Hmm.
of, I'm the end of the journey for the like customer life cycle for these breeders and these businesses. And when I explained it to them, they're like, "Oh, yeah, we do need people who like help them now." So I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't breed, at least not right now. And so it's kind of a unique spot where content creators can provide value. And a lot of the reptile content creators do take more of the education twist on it versus just the entertainment. So I think that's been really cool. But yeah, there's pros and cons. There's good days and bad days. But knowing that I've been able to help thousands of chameleon keepers and hitting those milestones of like, okay, yeah, it took me a lot of time, a lot of work to get here, and I'm the only one who sees that work, right? Because I'm the only one sitting here on my Friday night editing stuff
Hmm.
or answering DMs, from people. And like my friends and family kind of get it because they see glimpses, but I obviously spend most of my time not with them all the time. So
Hmm.
it's it's very rewarding, but no one truly gets how much work it is besides me. But I'm the only one who has to decide if it's worth it or not. So for now, it is. So for now, I will continue. But yeah, it's a journey.
Well, there comes a very important question for us entrepreneurs and content creators. What keeps you going And at what point do you say, I am sick of posting this link to this video for the 10,000th time?
Yeah.
Why am I doing this?
Yeah, so going to the link thing, it does feel a little better now that I can like make a little bit of money off of it. So that does
Okay. All right.
sweeten the deal. I'm like, okay, yes, I'm posting this link to this Amazon product again, but like maybe I'll get a little kickback from it. So like that part of it. But the reason why I mean I take screenshots. I get messages, people I've never even talked to. They've just found my content, watched it, and learned from it will take the time out of their day to DM me saying, thank you so much, like you saved my chameleon's life. Like, thank you so much, your videos were so helpful. Thank you so much. Like, those are the messages that make it worthwhile. Where like I didn't even talk to them directly. It's strictly from my content that I made. It was discoverable. They found it. They spent hours watching my YouTube videos, my TikToks, whatever, and then went out of their way to say thank you for that. And those are just the ones that say thank you, right? How many are watching it, learning, and then just taking that information and running with it? Like that to me, I have to remind myself that I only see a sliver of the people that reach out and just hit a million views on YouTube. So I have to imagine like some of those people, right, just came, learned, and then moved on, and hopefully are able to spread that information. And I think that is really, really rewarding as a content creator. And as my following is getting bigger, it's pretty cool for people to recognize that. And even just like my regular friends and family, I'm like, oh yeah, my chameleon. They're like 10,000, what? For chameleons? And I'm like, yeah, man, like it's cool stuff. So um, that's really
Okay.
fun.
All right. What plans do you have to expand or strengthen the Neptune brand?
Yeah, so far it's just I just made an Amazon store. So as far as like the monetization
Okay.
piece of it, I'm sure as you know, and maybe other reptile entrepreneurs, reptile supplies is a big thing in like being able to provide people with the correct resources. In the chameleon hobby, we have the chameleon kit. I know other animals also have equivalent kits that do more harm than good. And I know we've discussed this of, making potentially a kit that is it actually has everything you need. That's too daunting of a task for me to try and take on right now. But my intermediate is if I can open up as an Amazon store that has all those products available for people, then at least it's all in one spot. And then you can go and buy the correct stuff. Now, from a content creator standpoint, you're able to monetize that and then potentially, make some money from that. So I'm like, okay, well, like that's kind of cool. Let's see if we can do that. I just recently came out with Neptune the Chameleon merch, t-shirts, hoodies, all that. That's something that I told myself I wouldn't do until I had 10,000 subscribers on YouTube because I didn't think it was worth the effort and enough people would be interested for me to justify putting in the time in.
Okay.
So like that's been a new adventure for the Neptune the Chameleon brand is dipping into that space. But otherwise, just trying to grow the accounts. It's not about the numbers, but it also is because the more eyeballs that are on your content, the more people that you can help. So it's not for my benefit or for bragging rights, but really trying to outweigh, the TikTok that has 10 million views that does something you're not supposed to do or has incorrect information. I'm like, okay, well, even though I'm small but mighty, like hopefully my content can, come up on the page and someone can learn how to properly care for their chameleon versus all of the content that shows improper care. So just trying to spread the word and hopefully inspire other people to start making, accurate content out there as well.
Well, you've provided an example for people out there, whether you love flying geckos, Venus flytraps, hermit crabs, whatever. Uh, this is a template, an example of what you can do in a niche, a topic. And Neptune, I thank you for your work in the chameleon community. I thank you for coming on and sharing your insight into social media with the budding reptile entrepreneurs who might want to make their own social media and content creation. And I look forward to seeing what you come up with in the coming
Yep,
months.
yep. You just gotta start, stay consistent, and do it because you love it. You'll do great.
Thank you very much. Okay, I want to acknowledge the truth right here, right now, that social media is not easy. Yes, it Seems simple when you just want to post pictures of your cat, you want to just post pictures of what you ate for dinner. But when you're using it for your business, whether you're a product creator, a breeder of reptiles, or a content creator, there is a deep strategy that needs to be employed for each post on each platform. And so your social media outreach demands a concerted and deliberate strategy to make sure that your efforts on social media bring you the results that you want. You'll be seeing more and more guests to the Reptile Entrepreneur podcast that have to do with the social media space. And in doing that, I hope to give you the information, the tools, and the confidence to go out and be successful on social media. Thank you, Neptune, for coming on and sharing your behind the scenes strategy for what you do. And thank you, listeners and viewers, for being here week after week and joining me as we explore the entrepreneurial arts. It's time to get working on the next episode, so I'll see you then. Take care of yourself, take care of our reptile community. Let's see what we can build.